Thanks for joining us. Of course, round 6 tonight here at Nürburgring. And joining me as always, not Fernando.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, thank you. You?
I'm good. We're actually here at the Nürburgring tonight. Not the big one,
But not
we're at the Grand Prix circuit. It's obviously home to the European Grand Prix in Formula One for a couple of years.
Yeah, because remember the time when you had Hockenheim and Nürburgring in one F1 season?
Yeah, that's right. The Nürburgring, they got away with it by giving the Grand Prix silly names. Basically, San Marino. Imola is actually in Italy, it's not in San Marino. But they just called it the San Marino Grand Prix because there was already an Italian Grand Prix. And Catalunya had a race and Jerez had a race. So those are both in Spain, but Jerez was called the European Grand Prix.
And of course remember with Valencia as well, when Valencia was called the European Grand Prix.
And then the Nürburgring, for some reason, they called it a completely different country. I don't know if you ever remember the Luxembourg Grand Prix.
Yes.
Luxembourg, trust me, Luxembourg don't have no track. That was the Nürburgring that they were referring to as the Luxembourg Grand Prix.
Of course, you had Nürburgring with whatever name. You had Hockenheim, of course, back in the day. You still had the old Hockenheim, the long straight through the woods. Of course, then later it became Nürburgring or Hockenheim, alternating between the two. And unfortunately, as it stands now with the current calendar, you're not going to see any of it. Of course, the new calendar proposed to come in from next season.
Obviously, F1 moving away from Europe in general, staying in obviously a lot of the key areas, but where the calendar was dominated by European tracks, it's really not so much anymore. And they've got 3 in North America, but Mexico, USA, and Canada. And for a long time there was only Canada. So they are spreading out and they're not so concentrated on the same region. Actually driving on board now in qualifying. No lap times have been set as of yet. Guys just out on their outlaps, getting a feel for the track, getting a feel for the car. We're actually riding on board now with the Moto DW,
aka the Mott.
as you can see on your screen, Mott.
Currently showing you in 6th place.
Was one of our races that was with us every race. Hasn't been around so much lately.
But nice to see him back. He's still
making an appearance.
Whenever he can, he's here, which is always nice to see. Of course, with that said, you will also notice a lot more human drivers tonight than usual.
Absolutely a good turnout, and it's good to see.
And of course, new to the TNR League, joining us from tonight, welcome to Toki. And also welcoming back TNB Wazi.
That's right, we have Toki here, we have Wazi here. We have a very familiar yellow Renault.
Can only
number
be
7 on it. It's been in that car all season. Seen a lot of guys switching up and down, but I'm sure he likes that car. Stuck to that one. It's had an up and down season.
Seeing some times being posted here, but that's obviously AI.
You also have Chen.
Chen is still here. Of course, we got a lot. All the human drivers still to set some times here, so we're just waiting for a couple of guys to go around. Of course, Wazi is sticking to his green BMW. Obviously, I have faith in his little BMW.
You've seen that BMW in much worse condition. I remember seeing that without a bumper.
Hey, and Muna sticking to his Porsche.
And then the Porsche.
German
And
car on
we'll-
the German track.
So Munna sets
And immediately goes into the pit.
Munna sets the fastest time and disappears into the pits immediately. As I try to jump on board with him, he set a 1:57.9.
And this Max is just 0.3 behind with the mod. Also very below the 2-minute gap. Now on 4 for 2 minutes, pretty much dead on. Chen with a 2:01. So the human drivers now coming with a lap times. But I'm sure that's just some sort of bench, because I expect some guys to go even faster than that.
Currently in third place, Moto DW said making an appearance. So this is a bit of a return. So he's going to be a bit rusty. Doesn't play this as much as some of the other guys on track, but it's a fast driver, and I'm sure as the session goes on, those times are gonna come down as the feel comes back to him.
Of course, missing tonight is D-Man, some connectivity issues, and of course we're also missing the judge tonight thanks to Eskom. I must say, I like
That's
the
right,
color
we're
of that
going
car.
through some load shedding obviously here in South Africa, and obviously the guys are spread out amongst the country, so getting affected at different times, and unfortunate. Hopefully that can get sorted out quickly for the sake of the round.
And for the sake of the guys who miss their races.
Just better not happen on Sunday.
Oh, I can see a lot of angry South Africans.
So Gavin has set the lap time. It was a 2-minute flat, so currently 2.1 seconds off the pace. So very, very early days in qualifying. Guys could still be testing different things, not necessarily going for their ultimate lap just yet.
I mean, still
22 minutes
20
remaining.
minutes go, exactly, so still early days.
Just
Oh, Gaffby goes wide, a little way too wide in that corner.
takes out a bunch of the cones.
Ooh. Back in stepping out there for Chen.
The
Scored very in time.
joining Chen at a unfortunate time. He's trying to make his way back onto the circuit. Currently in 5th place, 3.7 seconds off the pace with
Of course, in that
a
GTR.
2-minute 1.7.
Also trying a different car.
Well, he's going to go over the line now and surely improve on that time. Currently
He does
7
move
seconds
up
off
to
the pace. Goes up to 6th, still 3.7 seconds. Could be running on heavy fuel.
Of course, must also be said, Wazi didn't do much practice in right racing, so still for him it's about just feeling that car and getting used to the track.
I know that Munna has been putting in some practice. I asked him earlier who's had the more practice, and he claims that Dirk has had the more practice. So
we'll
I don't know if that's some underdog games, or if that's really the case. Still want to get confused here. There's 2 green Porsches on the track, and the green BMWs in between them.
There's green, and there's greener.
And Munna's obviously behind this. This is an outlap. But if he's hoping to improve on his lap time, he'll want to get out of this crowd.
Correct. Looks like he actually now decided he's going to back up here to make sure they get away. Yeah, just getting himself some gap there. Going a lot slower now to make sure those guys in front of him move away. And now Wazi also slowed down. So Munna will now get past him and of course just build up for that next lap he wants to start. Ooh, and Gav goes wide into the barriers, but as it happens, he immediately goes to the pits.
Straight into the pits, so
Mismatch
disappearing
still in
off
the
our
pits.
screens.
And we also got Chin in the pits. Everyone else on track.
Third place. Still got Moto DW or the Mott. 1.8 seconds off the pace with a 1:59.7. Obviously using this as some track time. I'm sure we'll see him out there for a majority of those 30 minutes.
Of course, talking about Wazi earlier, same with him. We didn't have seen much track time, so this obviously would be his, not just qualifying for him, but practice and everything.
Some of these laps, I don't think they'll be going all out. They'll just be getting as much track time as possible.
Definitely. Just to get a feel for the track as much as the car, getting those braking points, feel where the grip is, you know, making your move from there, so come race time, you know exactly where to push and where to be careful and stuff.
So Munir's still on provisional pole. That gap's still 0.3 of a second. As Max remains in the pits for now. No action there from the Audi. Gavin's still on track. Currently in 4th. 2 minutes flat.
It can also be that some of the guys don't want to go out, push too much and show their hands too early.
That's right. I think, you know, even the guy at the top, he's only going to show his hand if somebody else does. So
did we just get an extra rider? All of a sudden I see 14 drivers, and 14 looks like there's some sort of penalty or something. Well, can be very joined now. He's just missing. Yeah, Ranger Trevet.
We have Ranger on track.
Ranger
in a striking Mercedes-Benz. If you like the look of that.
With that, we can actually say welcome Ranger Trevet, because he's also pretty much new in this league.
Yes, welcome to him. He also races with us over on Fridays.
On the TFB league for the F1.
So good to see him getting involved on both sides and see on different games, very different games. They both seem to be about the same thing, driving around in circles, but they're really not. different beast to master.
Indeed.
We'll keep an eye on him and see what sort of lap time he can come up with. Obviously the only man on track not to have set a lap time. No change at the front, just that 0.3 of a second. Can say that Motor DW has drastically closed his gap. He was in 3rd, still in 3rd, but that gap was 1.8 seconds if I remember correctly. It's now 0.6. So getting close.
So
and that's after 15 minutes.
So with Ranger joining, if I'm not mistaken, this is like nine human drivers, which is a good turnout tonight.
Very, very good turnout. TNB Wazi, riding in 6th place. A little bit rough over the curbs there, a little bit more than he would have liked.
You talk about closing a gap. If you look at the top 3, they all within a second.
That's right, just 0.6 of a second cover the top 3.
Do a Gavin and come straight into the pits.
Into the pits. That's right, with Toki. So one of our... don't think he needs any introduction to the game.
Just new to the league, but definitely not to the game.
I think he's pretty well seasoned in the game itself.
Of course, doing previous leagues as well, elsewhere. So he's pretty much used to this. And now, yes, and just another thing, if we look at that Porsche, Toki's reminding us, he's not completely mad, he's just slightly mad.
We ride with Ranger just to see what lap time he can set. Not sure how seasoned he is in this game. I believe from next week we'll also have Connor Young joining us.
Of course,
I believe he's getting the game on Monday, if I read correctly.
Correct. So he's pretty much new to the game. So he will not just be new to the league. So it's all about learning for him, knowing that he's been used to F1 versus something completely different. And it's something that you touched on from 2 races ago, Monza. Of course, having the same track for F1 and for this, of course, something completely different in this format. Your braking points is not the same, even if you think they are, they're not. The cars are completely different, your braking spots, acceleration, everything is different. So even if you know the track, you're actually at a disadvantage knowing the track, because now you think if from F1, this is where you brake, etc., you're actually putting yourself in a worse position. Forget about what you know about F1 and just restart from scratch on the track.
If you get to a track in a GT3 car that you've never been to before, you're going to approach that track differently than if you arrive at Austria and you know the game like you know the track like the back of your hand, but in an F1 car. At some stage you're going to brake like you're in an F1 car, or you're going to go full throttle through a corner like you're in an F1 car, and it just doesn't work. Very, very different beast.
And that's actually how some of these guys make that transition, because take someone like the Mott, Nismax, the Muna. All 3 of them have pace when it comes to this. They all have pace when it comes to F1. Of course, all of them race winners, and some of them even championship winners when it comes to F1. And yet they take that same pace and bring it here. Because that's the key. Forget about what you know about the track and start from over and adapt to the type of car that you drive.
It's also very much why I say people like putting out tweets saying, who is the greatest F1 driver of all time, and I'll always jump in and just throw a comment that you cannot compare those things because of the different equipment. I agree with you.
Because exactly that. Different times, different tracks, different equipment, different routes.
You've got different tracks, different facilities, different rules, different equipment, different competition. Who knows how many championships Senna would have won if Prost didn't steal 4 from under his nose. So you can't. I don't think you can compare that sort of thing. The sport is not the same.
And of course, in recent years, of course, with Mercedes having the advantage, dominating, of course, it's all about technology. So you can't really compare today's F1 car to the cars in the 70s or 80s, or even 90s for that matter.
Could Senna and Prost have won 7 titles between the 2 of them if they were racing hybrids? No one can answer that question.
And back in that time, hybrids were like unheard of.
So nobody can answer that question. So if they had the exact same technology that they had in 1950 and they never changed it, yes, then you could compare people across different eras because they had the same tools.
It's the same as asking, can Lewis Hamilton drive a car like that? No traction control, no computers, pure manual, whatever. Just like what they had back then. You won't know because it's different times.
You could be the biggest Lewis fan in the world, but if you're going to be honest with yourself, you cannot answer that question. You do not know. You have not seen Lewis Hamilton in a race situation with a 1980s car.
So the best bet is to say they were all good. They were all awesome drivers from their own eras. Yes.
For their era, yes. I don't think any sport should be compared across eras.
Because times change, technology develop. It's like rugby. Back in the day, rugby we played with a leather ball. I mean, look at the ball today. It's a lot lighter. It's not leather. You don't even have laces on a rugby ball anymore. Same with a soccer ball. How a soccer ball actually improved over time.
And even in terms of the fitness of the players, I mean, it was never at the levels that it is today. I mean, so you can't compare. I mean, the guy was fantastic in his era, but if he was playing in today's era and he was in the shape that he was in back then, things wouldn't have worked out very well.
And what I immediately think of, a quick comparison, Take Ronaldo versus someone like Maradona. Maradona was a well-known name, and everybody was wow about Maradona. Same today with Messi and Ronaldo. But if
Yeah,
you should have
absolutely.
if you should put Maradona in today and compare him to these guys, he would have never been on the international match or level. So it's
No,
the
no,
same. You
absolutely.
can't say
But
if Messi and Ronaldo were born in that time, they played in that era, they would have been something completely different.
exactly, like it's sports change, rules change, and obviously the competition changes. I mean,
And equipment, what
people
you
keep
use,
on
everything
saying,
change.
you
Rules
know,
always change because, and in fact, if you look at F1 for argument's sake, previous drivers have defined the rules and, of course, pushed the limits, which is why rules and stuff would change how it is today, what it is. So, no, it would be silly
a
to say
record,
A is the
a
best and B is the
record,
best.
a record the other day was tweeted, and it annoyed me. I didn't actually see the original tweet. I only saw it because somebody retweeted it. And on the retweet, they said, "This just proves that Lewis is better than Michael." And
Which is
so I
not.
went and I clicked on the tweet, and the record was that Hamilton has won a race in every F1 season he's ever competed in, and Schumacher did not do that. Well, Schumacher
Actually,
started his F1
that's a
career in a
crap
Jordan.
comparison.
Michael Schumacher started his F1 career in a back of the field car, and
Where Hamilton started
Lewis
in the
came to
McLaren,
McLaren Mercedes.
who at that
So
stage were championship contenders. I mean, he
it's
had
a
his
silly
way already.
comparison.
Exactly, it's a silly comparison because Hamilton had his doors open for him. Of course, being a Ron Dennis protege. He just stepped into McLaren where Schumacher had to prove himself, got into the back, and just like your Alonso's, like your Webbers, like your Vettels, Vettel started. I mean, he came in as a replacement driver for Kubica when Kubica had that big roll crash back in Canada.
Oof.
And
This
then
Max
the
goes
season,
fastest.
and
Sorry
then
to disturb. Look at
and then
that.
just .05.
Less than a tenth.
That is awesome. Now, this is what I've been saying earlier. These guys are going to become very closer towards the end. And if they can keep this up for the whole hour and a half, it's going to be an interesting race. To come
Just
back to
under
that,
7 minutes.
of course, Vettel went to Toro Rosso, so all the guys didn't have the same or the equal opportunities when they started or some in their careers, which again, it makes it difficult to compare.
I mean, Alonso. I mean, how can you have a record like that when Alonso's first season was at Minardi?
Correct.
I mean, how is he supposed to win a race?
Minardi would have never won.
Or like George Russell will never be able to emulate that record, and he's pretty powerless to change that.
Because of
what's George Russell supposed to do with the Williams in his first season? So
that
some
to me,
records are,
that is some silly. That was some silly Lewis Hamilton fan because that was just tweeted without thinking logically.
He won. The fact that he won every season means that he's had a very good car every
from the
season.
Start.
And well, if Lewis Hamilton fans want to tweet about something, tweet about the fact that Lewis Hamilton has never won an F1 race in a car that was not powered by a Mercedes. Nor has he raced in a race that was not powered by a Mercedes. So, can't say he's ever had a bad car.
So, there, and that, now just what you said, Ven, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and say, if you take that makes Michael better than Hamilton because at least Michael won championships with two different engine manufacturers.
And he won constructors titles with Benetton Renault and with Ferrari. And driver's titles with Benetton Ford.
Exactly.
Benetton Renault and
that's
Ferrari.
Actually three different engines, Ford, Renault and Ferrari.
So, and then obviously at the end of his career he raced with a Merc. So, he raced with 4 different engine manufacturers during his career, whereas Hamilton has raced with
one engine manufacturer.
He raced at McLaren Mercedes and jumped ship before it became McLaren Honda and went to Mercedes itself. So his career was never in any threat. He was never a Hulkenberg about to lose his seat when he's actually really talented. He he was always in a good car, backed by a brilliant engine manufacturer. So it's a silly comparison.
I don't know why people even get involved in stuff like that. Just,
I mean, Leclerc,
yeah.
that's like Leclerc can't match that, but if Leclerc had his first season at Ferrari, maybe he could have matched it.
Correct.
Had like one lucky race where he won the race, but he started in an Alpha, so he's not going to be able to do that either.
I mean, Vettel, 4-time world champion, also didn't win in every season. So yeah, like you say, it's a silly comparison. It doesn't make you a bad driver for not being able to win in your first season or every season. Depends on the car, because you also need a good car. A good car needs a good driver needs a good car. It needs to be both. You can't just have a good car and then your driver means nothing. Or you have a championship winner, but your equipment that you give him is failing, or is not up to scratch with the rest of the pack. I really love this car's colour. I love this car's colours.
3.5 minutes remaining in your qualifying session. Mott currently third, just 0.8 of a second off of provisional pole. I think he'll be happy with that for a return, but I don't think he's finished quite yet.
Talking about the new guys, sorry to interrupt you, I see Ranger made it up to P5.
Doing a good job there, 2 minutes flat. Haven't had a lap time of 2 minutes flat for quite a long time, so up to speed quite nicely. Seems like he has a penalty.
Ranger,
saw that already when he joined the lobby. He already had that red.
Not sure what's that for. Unless it's also going to be a position.
Quickly just bring up your timing
screen.
Yeah,
grid place, unfortunately.
He's got a 1 grid place penalty. So first, second, and third, your top 3 all in the pits. Nismax has just emerged from the pits, so he's going to try and improve on that. Obviously, he took provisional pole by less than a 1/10, and Munna responded immediately, taking provisional pole back by 1/10 of a second.
No, he's still going to go at it again. I can see a race between these two.
Nismax is going to have another go. It's going to be a tight one.
I think it's going to be...
Takes a good 2 minutes to get around this track. It is going to be a warm-up lap, only 2 minutes remaining on the clock, so hopefully he doesn't get held up and
he's already far enough on track to make it around. As long as he don't get held up.
So doesn't want to get held up and miss the checkered flag, and obviously he can't back up to get away from this car, otherwise he will miss the checkered flag. So you'll want to get past. They'll probably be hoping that car dives out of the way. Munna currently on pole. He's also out on circuit, having one last go at it.
Now I think we're in for a fantastic race between Munna and Nismax. So it's going to be one of those hour-and-a-half battle.
Gavin not quite in range with the top lap times. He's currently 1.2 seconds off of provisional pole, but then again we don't know how these cars have been set up, and maybe he's happy to give that time away on a all-out pace, and maybe he set his car up for the race. Really don't know. But currently 1.2 seconds. Ranger doing well in his debut race. Currently sitting in 5th. He's ahead of Chen in 6th. Obviously there's going to be a grid place penalty, so those two would swap positions.
I'm surprised, actually just one 7th. Penalty, just Ranger so far with a penalty, which is quite good.
So Chen has taken that 5th place, nicely done. He's improved just enough. So that means TNB Wazzy will get the benefit of the Ranger penalty. So Wazzy will be starting in 6th if things remain the way they are. To have a look, where are your 1st and 2nd place drivers? Who was the first man out on track? It's right on board with Nismax. Let's see what camera angles we can get here.
Just, of course, experience that track layout as well, yeah.
See a lot of incline changes, a lot of ups and downs. Fantastic circuit. Obviously, like we've mentioned, was a Grand Prix venue, so where is the Munna? Wonder if either of these two are going to improve. Currently the only two drivers on the board that have a 1 minute 57. 1 minute 57.7, 1 minute 57.8. Those are the times. Next best, we didn't see that, but your next best is Gavin. He's taken third place.
And Mott currently in fourth, and they also quite close to each other.
Maybe he's listening to the stream. Maybe I annoyed him, but he found a little bit of pace there. If I annoyed him, then I did a good job, because just 6/10 off pole as Max goes over the line. Look at that, he goes fastest by 3/10 of a second. We're going to ride on board now with
See
Munna.
what Munna's doing. Coming around that final corner.
Comes around the final corner now. Let's see if he can improve. He's going to have to find 3/10 if he wants to improve. Goes over the line.
And he does. He does.
He does. He finds 4/10.
Yes.
And Munna more than he needs.
And of course, I say it's a new fastest lap. Munna, of course, also have the ability to get that awesome pull away. Ranger Trevette got another grid place penalty, so now that will be 2 places.
Just give you a rundown of your board there. Obviously, Munna stealing pole right at the last minute. Nismax thought he had it with seconds remaining. Gavin's managed to get himself up into third. Motor DW on his return 4th. Then we got Chen in 5th. Ranger on debut in 6th. Wazzy 7th. Toki 8th. Got an AI in 9th. And we got Devon in 10th. And that makes up the human drivers. We've got AI covering 11th down to 14th.
Of course, just waiting for everybody to get, of course, the final setups and so forth. So as they prepare for that race.
Obviously ahead of us we have a 1.5 hour endurance race. I've noticed with the experience I've had in this league that most of these races, if you get your tyres right and you don't have any damage, you can get away with a one stop.
Correct.
But it's going to be difficult getting around an hour and a half without damaging your car. When how many human drivers do we have? 9. So when you have another 8 drivers around you, that they're all quick. Plus you do have to worry about the AI drivers every now and then getting a little punchy, even when you're trying to lap them. They can get very Ocon about the situation. Unfortunately, haven't been looking at Twitter, but I see that we've been corresponding with TNB Judge. He's not with us.
Still sitting in the dark, unfortunately.
Escom playing their part in diminishing his potential racing career. So it's unfortunate. I hope to see you at the F1 tomorrow. Some of the guys having worse luck than others. Also commenting there, great qualifying, it really was. It went down to the last couple of seconds.
I mean, technically, the time ran out. It was that last bit of time just giving you the opportunity to finish what you're busy with. And that's actually where both of them came with blind of laps. 157s, low 157s.
There's Max stole it right at the end, and he actually took quite a chunk out of the time. He took 3/10 out of the time, and thought his Munna going to have 3/10, and he had 4/10.
And Munna found the extra 10 to go faster.
So just a 1/10 of a second there, covering first and second. But like we know from experience, these endurance races, pole position really doesn't mean anything. your pole position could be worthless by the time you get to turn 1.
Of course, depending just on the start you make and what start the other guys make. And of course, mentioning it again, because this is a tight first corner. Of course, if everybody arrive hard in that first corner, it can be race over. Of course, depending on the amount of damage you sustain and of course having to pit, you can lose some serious time. I mean, it's an hour and a half race, avoid the contact, maybe sacrifice a position or so, but if someone else in front of you gets the damage, you're ultimately going to be rewarded. So yeah, so it's all about just managing into that first corner and from there build your race. And of course,
You know,
be
I always
patient
said
and
it was,
keep it clean for an hour and a half.
always said it was an endurance racing thing, but it applies to Formula 1 as well. You know, sometimes having patience for that extra lap or two. And oh my word.
Oh, we're going to have a wet start. Oh, whoa,
We're
whoa,
starting
whoa.
the race in conditions that do not seem conditions that do not seem fantastic. Look at that. And I wonder how long the rain is going to last. Is it going to last into the night?
Looks like a typhoon
And,
hit Nürburgring all of a sudden.
If it does last into the night, then we know that it can get quite tricky.
Of course, remember to the previous race, Monza, of course, as we hit night, it started to rain, and it rained all the way through till the morning session, and that morning session was mist. It was misty like crazy.
Your qualifying session could really come down to nothing. We've seen it before that a lot of the guys focus their practice on dry conditions and, you know, don't really spend... Who realistically spends half the time in the wet? They don't. So times could look different. Maybe the guys that are at their peak in the dry are not fantastic in the wet.
From that
just waiting
shot
for them to finish up.
But from that shot there, it looks like we're missing 3 races. And DW lines up in the front.
We are missing races.
It looks like
just have a look on the. I'm just going to have a look on the WhatsApp group if there's any communication.
No, nothing. It just shows 11 races, not the full 14, and it looks like Nismax is in the pole position with DW next to him. No Gafpik, no Muna, and here we go. Nismax with a lower cautious start. Oh, there we go. There's Muna now. That's okay. It's just the other around. So the only one we now in position there is Gafpik. Muna with an awesome start, keeping it in first place. Nismax also a good solid start, staying on the inside. The two of them keeping it clean, leaving each other room.
But no contact. Still side by side here.
Both using different lines into this first sequence of corners. DW staying with him.
Both of them obviously wanting to come out of this little encounter in front. You want the clear track. Eliminate the spray. Still going to be very treacherous, difficult conditions, but at least if you don't have the spray, you can see that little bit better.
Already you can see the top 3 moving away from 4th place driver Devon. And DW dropping off a little bit now from the
top 2
front.
Starting to break away a little bit, so maybe just that could come down to just one little mistake there, just falling off the 2. So go back to 4th place. Devon 5th place, but TNB Wazzy coming under pressure from Chen. It's all over the back of him there. Very tricky conditions, and maybe you want to take a lap or two and just watch what the guy in front of you is doing and just get used to it.
Okay, so just to do damage control, of course, and Mr. Director can also help me here. But it looks like we're missing Toki, Ranger, and Gafpik.
That's right, Gavin qualified 3rd. He never did make the grid. We saw that Motor DW started in 3rd, so we're missing that Renault driver. We're missing Ranger, which is
why is he going very slow? He might have some damage after that contact there.
Something not not working very nicely on that BMW, and he's in last, so he's gonna fall back before he maniges to find his way to the pits.
Are really having really on the back of that Porsche. Gonna try to have a look on the inside.
Is there
Think about it. Sending Muna a bit wide.
It was close.
Turning in. He's gonna have a better line. Muna on the inside again. Nismax on the outside, just like the previous lap. Same lines.
Deja vu. Looks like lap 1 actually. Very similar.
Muna keeping it on the inside, just making sure he keeps it in front of that Audi.
We've seen before that these two can do 15-20 laps just trailing each other just like this.
There goes Tnr Round as well.
Wazzy has also now lost the connection. Unfortunately,
I just received confirmation that Toki was a disconnection.
Toki was disconnected.
I think that might have been Wazi's case as well. I know there were some issues, concerns about Eskom also in his area.
That leaves us now with 10 drivers, majority of which are AI, I think. See Motor DW still in 3rd place, followed by Devon, followed by Chen. Your leaders remain the same, Nismax and Muna, almost a second.
Bit of a gap there now. Muna getting away a little bit there from Nismax.
So getting away, is Nismax just giving himself some breathing room before he has another go? But, TW staying on the end of this pack. I haven't been able to get too far down the road. And obviously if this rain doesn't lighten up, conditions are just going to get worse as it begins to darken.
And DW actually staying there with the top 2, although they're fighting and pushing. DW is managing to hold on. It's 2 seconds, but still he's there with him. And the 3 of them already 9 seconds up. Of course, Devon in 4th place, just falling further back, having Chen now right in the back of him. Of course, Chen battling with Wazi a lap or 2 ago. So Devon will feel the pressure shortly, if not already. And just seeing Nismax now right back on the Muna again.
Just a tenth of a second between the two of them. They're side by side. As we join them, they're side by side.
But Muna keeping the inside, making sure he's keeping it in front.
Just for let's try get an interesting camera angle. Let's see what Nismax could see if he's using cockpit view.
Oof.
Well, that's what he can see. So.
And there was a lot of warning today about having a button assigned for wiper functions. At the moment it doesn't look like he's using wipers. Perhaps he's so concentrated, so fixated on Muna, he's not really noticing that spray on his windscreen.
Just have a look.
Yeah, Muna's got wipers on.
Muna's got the wipers on. There's your leader. And then not far down the road, on his bumper, we have Nismax, and he's been there for a majority of the race. Muna's led this race from the start, but Nismax hasn't made it easy. Now he's got the inside line, but
not really at that angle. Of course, must give it to both of his drivers, allowing each other that space. Of course, from previous races here again, so close to each other the majority of the time, but just allowing each other enough space. Of course,
Motor DW just coming back again into this a little bit.
Because if these two in front should make contact, he will be the big winner. Also no wiper usage there, a lot of spray on that windscreen.
5 human drivers left, and they're in the top 5.
Was a good start, unfortunately it didn't last that long.
Nismax still right there on the bumper.
He's gonna no. Oh, there was a bit of contact.
There was definitely a bump. We saw the bump.
but hopefully not a huge bump. Oh, and there Muna pays back,
there's a
just
little
takes
bit
him
of
back.
a return.
And
And
actually,
Nismax has got past. There we go.
with that contact, it's almost like Muna pushed him in a better position to gain that position. Just a
Not
friendly
sure if
tag
that
from
was
each other
a
to each
friendly
other.
tap back, or if it was by accident, but it seemed to. Seems like Nismax came off second, came off best. Muna came off second best, and he's led the race up until lap 4, and now Nismax has gotten by. Now, crucially, will he be able to stay on the Audi's bumper? Will he be able to get back into the lead, or was Nismax on his bumper this long because he's quicker?
Oh, we'll see within the next lap or so what's going to happen. Now that the positions are changed over.
DW in all of this. He's still keeping a safe distance.
Especially after what we just saw now. If they made that type of contact, it can happen again. And maybe more severe.
If these two were to bump each other and both lose momentum by going through a gravel trap, you'd have a leader, and there's a mistake by the Audi.
This go wide, and that's going to cost him both second and push him all the way to third. From first all the way down to third. 2 positions lost there.
Muna
that can
has
so
the lead.
easily happen.
Muna has the lead, and now he has DW between himself and Nismax.
But DW having a look, so Muna now has to contend with DW. So even with that mistake from Nismax, he doesn't change the pressure. He's still under pressure. And of course, really? Nismax not far behind DW. Muna going a bit wide there. Can he make it? Yeah, he will just have enough traction there to get the car going in the right place.
Have the inside for the next corner. It's all about how he positions that car.
But of course, not the easiest of conditions.
And obviously now, if you're trying to get past, getting past is one thing, but you know, you still have to do enough to keep your car on the circuit.
Correct, and so, of course, once you get in front, you need to also do the relevant to stay in front, because we just saw with Nismax, take the lead, a few corners later, you lose the position again. So you need to stay on
right on the back of Motor DW. I'm sure if these were dry conditions, he would have gone for it.
He's diving up the inside. DW on the outside. Yeah, DW just a little too wide. Nismax on the better line that time. And he will be right back on winner, and we're right back to where we started. DW just need to know how to keep it calm, just keep a clear head there.
The order has been reset as it was. Muna, Nismax, and then DW. Let's just have a look. Where is Devon? Devon is in 4th, Chen in 5th.
Devon just opened up a little bit. Yeah, Devon actually opened up a gap to Chen. Gives him a bit of more breathing space.
Chen was there. And then I saw a bit of a position change, and when I got to the camera angle, he was 2 seconds behind. So I wonder if he just tried to get past and maybe outbraked himself somewhere. Top 3 still in striking distance of each other.
Okay, I think TNB Wazi, it's not about being on track and practice a lot of driving. I think the real practice Wazi needs is to figure out which button to press when you get your pit strategy and everything set for the race. Or when you go to the pits and you try to select strategy. You, of course, be careful. Do not select back to race control, or before the start of a race. You must make sure you press ready. Otherwise, you will not be able to participate. So I think that's some serious practice TNB Wazi at this stage need. That more than racing. Because it looks like he might have pressed. It's actually not a disconnect. It was him actually who clicked on the wrong selection, which took him out of race. And DW goes on the inside, and DW back in second position.
So Nismax down to 3rd. And for the first time, really, Munna's got a bit of a buffer. Doesn't have a car all over his bumper. Got a bit of a gap. And actually now that top three has split up a bit.
DW with a
Motor
huge corner
DW.
cut. Might have
Corner
just
cut over the
missed
gravel.
the brakes there. Brakes a bit. And that will allow Nismax looking on the inside, making it stick. Of course, it's going to be on the better line. Nismax is making sure he's keeping it this time at least. But during that, Munna actually opened that gap up even more. Now we've got a 2.5 second gap between Munna and Nismax. And DW is going to have another look at Nismax. Yes, and DW goes back into second. At the moment, it's not as much Nismax and Munna as we predicted, but rather Nismax and DW going at each other.
Nismax tried everything in the opening laps to get past Munna. Eventually was able to do it. Made a mistake, got him down to third. Then he got back up into second. But now he's just he's getting his hands full here with DW.
And of course that allows Munna to get away because gap is now over 3 seconds.
See now these two slowing each other down, swapping positions. 2.6 seconds your gap at
running
the front.
wide. Defending. Nismax trying on the outside.
Obviously very, very early days in the race. Just even the first 15 minutes have passed and it's too early to talk about fuel. But obviously that's something that's going to come into the race a little bit later on.
And of course with these conditions, fuel burning will be worse. Munna now still that 3 second gap.
3.5 seconds. And Nismax all over the back of DW. Needs to get by.
And if he gets past, he needs to make sure he stays in front to have some sort of chance to catch up with Munna again. Unless there's some sort of damage slowing him down that we're not aware of.
Just having a little...
Oh, DW goes again, which will give, and that it does indeed give Nismax the position. Because just like the previous lap, DW actually went over that curb of a track, which allowed Nismax to take the position. And it's pretty much a replica on this lap, so can Nismax actually keep it in front this time?
The two now just trading places really by tripping over themselves. Gets past, makes a mistake, and then has to get past again. So hopefully they're done with that. Munna is 3.5 seconds up the road.
This time round DW couldn't get back at Nismax, so coming to finish his lap, Nismax actually stays in second. Bit of a gap between him and DW now, so he will be chasing after Munna. Gap is around about the 4 second mark. We'll see.
Just
of
going
course,
back
what
to
happens.
our other two drivers, Chen has made his way past Devon. It was 2 seconds ahead of Chen. Obviously made a mistake, maybe an off-track excursion, but Chen does have a little bit of a buffer and he's up to 4th place.
And we gap pretty much between 3.5-4 seconds, just depending on obviously where on track we are, between Munna and Nismax. But it does look like Nismax is actually pulling away from DW and catching up with Munna.
Don't see any damage or any visible damage right now on that car, but seems like Nismax is getting away a little bit, trying to close that gap, getting back in striking distance.
Gap now between him and DW is pretty much a second, and it looks like the gap between him and Munna might have closed a little bit. But of course, it depends where on track they are, because if one accelerates, one brakes, gap tend to be bigger, of course. So it's just how they progress. So we'll just keep an eye on this battle to see how it progresses. Seems like DW is falling further back now to Nismax.
That gap now coming below 3 seconds to 2.8 briefly, and then back to 3. Yeah. So Nismax is making an impact. We can see it's starting to get darker. Those those lights on the car is definitely having more of an impact. Doesn't help that it's raining and you get that reflection that shines back at you. Wonder if we'll have a dry finish.
So far, it doesn't look like any possibility of clearing up.
Couldn't possibly rain for an hour and a half, could it?
Anything is possible. That's going to be a
dynamic.
test of character. Luckily, these guys actually had practice in wet and dry conditions, so the preparation for the race was good. So that's why they actually still managed to hang in there and do some decent lap times. And Nismax really is the guy in the move, because even getting further and further away from DW and getting closer and closer to Nismax again. To Muna, sorry about that.
I said not so long ago that the gap had dropped below 3 seconds, briefly into the 2s. Now it's briefly dropped into the 1s. So he's closing that gap.
Can it be that he found his rhythm finally, and this is now actually where he's going to make this race his race? Because he's just getting closer and closer to Muna, and of course the breathing space Muna had is pretty much gone when he's going to feel that pressure of Nismax going to put on him under shortly when Nismax would close up to his bumper again, just like what we had at the start.
It's 1.6 seconds, 1.4 seconds the gap. So Nismax continues to close the gap. DW hasn't been able to go with him though. He's 4 seconds adrift of Nismax.
We don't even need to look at lap times, just looking at how that gap closed down. There's definitely Nismax is the fastest guy at the moment.
Now that you bring it up, let's just have a look for interest's sake. Timing screens.
Oh yes.
Muna on the last lap did a 2 minute, sorry, if he was doing a 1 I think he'd be in a fantastic mood. But on the last lap, Muna doing a 2 minute 11.5, Nismax doing a 2 minute 9.8.
Interesting, and that was actually Nismax's best lap, and yet his best lap is still slower than Muna's best lap. And also the only 2 drivers to go 2 minute 9. Of course, the only other guy close to them is DW, 2 minute 10.
Muna with the fastest lap of the race, that 2 minute 9.7.
And Nismax just keep closing and closing and closing.
Fastest lap of the race was that 2 minute 9.7. Look at that, Nismax has just done a 2 minute 9.7. 8 thousandths of a second between those 2 best laps. And Muna not really able to respond immediately, 2 minute 11. So that gap now under a second, 8 tenths, 5 tenths. We're going to be back in the action soon.
Of course, just to make a comment that obviously all F1 fans will know, Nismax would be edging to press that DRS button.
Absolutely, if you could just get a little bit of DRS down the straight, but no such. Plus it's raining.
Looks like the rain might be a little bit lighter, but still a lot of spray, a lot of water still on track. Now with the lights you can really see the effect of that rain and how the track looks.
Also this camera angle that we're looking at right now, it does look a lot better than, I mean, cockpit looks like that.
And Nismax found the wipers.
Maybe that's why he got faster.
Interesting, eh?
No. That's my little analysis. That's how he got faster. He found the wiper.
I can't help but to agree with you there, because that's the only thing that we see different compared to the earlier part.
Well, he's right there.
Just flashing some lights there for Muna.
He's flicking his lights, just
showing
letting him
Muna
know.
Is there.
Just in case he can't see him.
Of course, both of them, their cars are fitted with a yellow light, so I think Muna can't really miss him with that yellow light. Of course,
coming around the final corner onto the pit straight.
If this was an
F1
F1
right
car,
up behind that
there we go. If that was an
F1
car, that DRS would have been wide open. Oh!
Both of them just going towards the pit wall hitting the pit wall. Muna not getting too much of it, but Nismax seemed to have hit it a bit harder.
And that's going to really jeopardize his race because he's already falling back.
That car has definitely got damage on it. You can see on the right hand
side. Muna kept the inside line. He kept the inside line and kept on fighting the insid line. And he also got damage here because he kept on fighting, he kept on fighting to keep his inside line. And Nismax has followed him all the way to try to keep that slipstream. But of course they kept on moving, and I don't think both of them realized how close they were to the pit wall, and eventually both of them ended up in the pit wall. That's how much Muna was prepared to defend and how much Nismax wanted that slipstream.
Meantime, Motor DW continues to fall back, still in third place. He hasn't been able to really capitalize on that mistake that we saw on the pit straight.
But of course, in the long run, that might still play into his hands because this was the break that he was hoping for. But these two do something like that.
Something we need to look at this. They're battling at it again with the damaged scars and all. Now remember.
And Nismax going to go on the inside. He's actually making a move here on Muna. Of course, one light out, it's going to be difficult in the dark.
Really nicely done.
But of course, it's going to come down to those pit stops of both of them.
Muna now flicking lights.
Wonder if he's feeling that Nismax is now blocking him. He feels faster. Of course, looking at the damage on those cars, the one that's going to stop the longest, that's going to actually be the one who's going to lose this race.
They're now falling back. 3.3 seconds, so...
All of a sudden he's way over pace. I wonder if he's going to come into the pit. Yes, indeed he
does.
Is.
He dives into the pits, and who's that behind him? It's Motor DW.
DW's whoa, heavy braking there, almost lost it.
Just needs to get into the pits nice
all three are race leaders are in. Nismax also came into the pit.
Now I have a little prediction here. Motor DW is going to take the lead of this race.
Yes, because he's got less damage.
Those cars are damaged. His car is not. He's going to be in the pits for a shorter amount of time.
This is going to be a routine stop, and he'll be on his way a lot quicker.
I think he could take the lead of this race.
And he's already showing us in the lead because obviously being further down in the in the pits, where his garage positioned further down. So he already got the better position, of course, on a quicker stop. He will definitely guarantee him the first place.
Where is Devon? Devon is in 6th place. So he's obviously pitted already. Same story for Chen, who's down in 8th. They split by an AI. No action at the front for you.
And Muller's actually going in front, but he still shows damage on the car unless he chose not to repair all of it. So Muna actually proving us wrong. And here comes DW.
DW did jump Nismax. That part of the prediction was right, but maybe Muna running more.
He came in quicker. Because from the looks, it should have been DW, because from what we saw, there was less damage on his car. But then again, we don't know the amount of fuel that each driver put in. And as we say that, the track is actually a bit drier now. Rain has stopped.
Well, if that is the case, it could really stir the pot. If these guys have just come out on a fresh set of rain tires, maybe they're not going to have a very long stint on those rain tires before they need to rethink their strategy. I wonder as well if Nismax was in the pits for longer than Muna because of something fuel related.
That's also going to make it interesting later in the race.
Has he got more fuel to go to the end? Does Muna have enough fuel to go to the end? Did he underfuel? But my prediction was that DW would take the lead, but he's in 2nd place and he's 6.5 seconds adrift of your leader. He's now your clear leader. Nismax is in 4th. Currently has his hands full with an AI car. This is obviously for position, so that AI car might give him a bit of a difficult time. He is defending for position. Now they go side by side.
Squeezing him.
Squeezes him as they contact.
And he makes it. He makes it. Nesmax back into third place, 16 seconds off Vamuna. Looks
Got
like
him under
DW
braking.
gained a bit of time also on Vamuna. So we'll see what type of lap times Nesmax are able to do now.
Still a lot to happen in this race.
Just over an hour still left.
1.5 hour endurance race, 1 hour remaining. The rain seems to be calming down. Still a few droplets running across my screen, but nothing like what it looked like at the start. Another thing to remember is this is a night race. That track is not boiling hot. There's no track temperature to speak of. So how long will it take to dry up once it actually stops raining? So might really be when the sun comes up. That little transition.
Looks like Nesmax is on the move. It seems that gap is closing.
That gap was 16 seconds. I looked at it now. It was briefly in the 14s.
Yes.
So there we go, back to the 14s. So he is making up time.
And so is DW. DW also seems to be making some time beyond Muna.
So on that last lap, that was obviously all of them coming out of the pits. So you can't read too much into that. Let's wait for the next lap to see what who's the quickest man on circuit. But judging by those times, it looks like Nesmax. He's closing that gap. Motor DW still 5 seconds from the winner, not.
But yeah, gap was actually briefly also under 5 seconds. So it looks like
going now
DW
to
is
4.
also getting some time up there.
Try it with your leader.
If Muna light fueled, it might also be that he is conserving some fuel, which will explain why he's going slightly slower.
So different ways really of playing this game. Can overfuel and go in rich, or underfuel and manage your fuel. But I think what that pit stop came down to was fuel loads, which obviously we no longer speak of after round 1. The driver's taking advantage.
Nesmax now staying in the 14 seconds, so, and getting closer to that 13 second.
Gap not really coming down much more.
But it's still coming down. Even Motor DW still coming down. Yes, Nesmax 207.
On their last lap. Nesmax did a 207.3.
And DW 208. So they both definitely faster than the Muna.
Motor DW with a 208.5. Muna with a 209.7. So that means he's the slowest driver in that top 3. Yet he's leading.
And all 3 drivers last lap were their best times.
See how he will react to it. What will he do?
Yeah, gaps now for him is in the 13 seconds, so definitely still coming down. Of course, need to make up for that mistake. Of course, if he decided to stay on the outside and Muna did what he did, Muna would have been the one in the pit lane, and of course that into the pit wall, and that pit wall, of course, if you make contact, tends to slow you down like drastically. So at speed, the outside car would have had a better line, but Nesmax chose to stay with him for that slipstream, and both actually got some damage. So again, we don't know how much of a damage repairs or fuel-wise those stops were, so we will have to wait till a bit late in the race to see how this one turns out.
Time remaining in the race has now officially dropped below 1 hour. 2/3 of the race to go. Things actually starting to look dry. I'm sure there's standing water around the track. Just change this, change his camera angle and see what
a little bit shiny still.
What the Muna can see.
Yeah,
still definitely reflections there on the circuit. Still standing water.
Still damp there, yes.
And this, especially on this game, slicks when there is standing water.
Not a good idea.
It's just not an option.
And of course, slicks is not like the old F1 tires where they had the grooves in. It's pure, just plain tire. And of course, if you hit the brakes too hard, you lock up. You're just going to aquaplane.
So DW 4 seconds down the road from your leader. Now Nismax beginning to close that gap again. We said it was getting stagnant at the 14 seconds, now it's 12.4. Getting closer.
And DW again sometime on the, yeah, here we go, Muna 207, DW 207, Nismax 206.
Last lap, first and second both react. Both
Track's
getting into the 207s.
Track's definitely improving. Track's definitely improving.
Going quicker.
Everybody's going quicker.
067.
Track is definitely on the improve.
As we said, the track still looks shiny, track still looks wet.
But it's getting better.
But
slowly
every
but surely.
little bit of grip that you're gonna get, you're gonna go a little bit quicker. And I think as the track really begins to dry out, we'll see these lap times drop dramatically.
DW going a bit wide there, which would have cost him some time to Muna, and of course Nismax would be gaining on him.
Nismax 8 seconds adrift of Moto DW. He's looking to close that gap, and he's had his hands full with that driver already in this race. So some deja vu on the cards. And what if these three were to close up again towards the end of the race? That would be fantastic.
Some exciting stuff.
Devon in 5th. He has
an
AI in front
if
of
you
him.
follow a car like that, you can see actually how wet, where is still water, you can see how much, enough to cause spray. So it's going to be some time still before we go to slicks.
I noticed that when you use this bumper cam, things look a lot better, you see.
Yes.
And when you jump to cockpit, then you actually notice the spray. Now you're not noticing spray because he's managed to get past. Devon up to 4th place. It's 24 seconds adrift.
But if we can have can have a rear view camera over here, I'm sure we will see some spray at the back of his car.
Let's just have a look. The AI behind him.
Of course, also certain parts of the track will be...
Maybe, I was just going to say, maybe worse on certain parts of the circuit. Like there, just seeing a bit of spray come up. We had a few corners where it didn't look too bad, but just doesn't look good at all. Just doesn't look like slicks.
Looks like Chen has been lapped by Muna, of course now following in that spray of Muna.
Just go back to the front. I think Muna forgot to switch off his wipers. There's nothing on that windscreen now. Might want to turn those off. Could get a wee bit distracting if you don't need it. Motor DW, I don't think he ever found his. I think that thing's been off since the start of the race.
There's Max as well. Now we're so fixated in this, we're not even paying attention to that.
That would annoy me. I would have noticed that, but then again, I'm not one of the fastest guys, and that's probably why. Because I'm focused on the damn windscreen wiper. Nismax is one of the guys who, well, usually listens to the stream, so I'm pretty sure you can hear us. Getting some weird little glitches there in the game.
Of course, nice with the night and the lighting, you can actually see where the guy in front of you are pretty much.
They've been having a good race, considering 28 seconds in an endurance. Not
Nismax still the faster between the three in front. There you can see Muna's car. So the DW's got Muna in his sights. But can he catch him? That's the other thing, because constantly, but doesn't look like he can get to a gap like 2 seconds and below. So it's tend to stay a little bit stagnant here between 3 and 4.5 seconds.
Good looking colour scheme there. The driver in second place, 3.8 seconds. It's been hovering there.
Yes. Not coming down a little bit further than that, but Nismax definitely getting closer and closer to DW.
Won't be surprised if Muna's just watching that gap and responding to it accordingly. Maybe just keeping it at a level that he wants.
Maybe just managing fuel, and of course when really need to he will put down the hammer.
On that
Nesmax
last lap,
Nesmax
DW
still a
going
bit
a
quicker.
2059. And it's
Nesmax at
Nesmax even faster.
204.
Second faster.
Both of
Muna
them still faster than Muna.
Muna just a 2071. So
Interesting, both of them faster. Now Nesmax under 10 seconds behind Muna. And at the 5-second mark to DW.
5 seconds to DW. DW 4 seconds to the Muna. 9 seconds cover your top 3. The top 3 have pitted. Now we just watched a bit of a mistake there by Motor DW, just ran a bit wide. It's going to allow Nesmax to catch up piece by piece, considering he doesn't make mistakes of his own. That gap's still at the 5 seconds mark, so it doesn't look like he was able to take too much out of it. Still your leader by 4.2 seconds.
Just managing that gap to DW, not really increasing it, but not really letting him catch up too much either.
That's why I say I think he's managing it. I think he's just watching it, and when it gets too close to the 3-second barrier, I think then he'll just use a little bit more fuel and then turn it back down. Or I could be making all of this up. I don't know. You could just be trying to keep the car on track and have no idea what I'm talking about at all.
We still have 51 minutes to go before we know for sure what tragedy and how it pans out.
W still having a fantastic race on his return, second place.
3 seconds.
Wish I could pick up a controller after 2 months and come second in a Project Cars 2 race. Do remember he's doing this on a controller, as is Muna. Game I haven't even been able to semi-master with my wheel.
Still a bit of reflection there, of course, but the track is definitely a lot drier. We're pretty much approaching crossover.
Not quite sure why the gravel is reflecting, but
no, that doesn't make sense. The gravel should not reflect.
It's quite a strange compound.
Now.
What a strange compound that of gravel they're using over there in Germany, or if you believe Luxembourg.
It reflects water even on the gravel.
No, absolutely, that just doesn't sound safe.
Now Nesmax is not being able to get under 5 seconds to the DW. That gap kind of staying stagnant at 5.
Now that gap this gap between first and second, it occasionally gets close to 3 seconds and then opens back up to 4.
So which speaks to what you said earlier about Muna probably just managing it.
That last lap Muna did respond, but he's still the slowest in the top 3.
Fastest one was DW.
DW
which explains why
2056.
Nesmax didn't make any inroads there.
And then Muna 2065, so he's actually a second off the pace here. So hasn't been the quicker driver, so I'm not sure how he's been able to maintain his lead this long.
Nesmax now actually started to make inroads again. That gap briefly goes under 5 seconds to DW, and actually hovering in the 7-second region to the Muna.
Devon in 4th place. All hope is not lost. We know in an endurance race these guys could be running very different fuel levels.
Definitely.
If he's got a short pit stop in his future, he could 37 seconds in endurance racing is not really a world away. Somebody just needs to make a mistake, get some damage, spend a minute or two in the pits, and
it's all yes, exactly.
Devon's going to get handed a podium, so just needs to keep his head down, stay where he is. If anyone has any misfortune, he's going to find himself on the podium.
And DW now actually under 3 seconds to Muna. That gap was briefly under 3 seconds.
Not just 3.2, but starting to break the 2-second barrier. There we go, it does it again. So he's getting closer. Those times getting quicker, the track getting quicker. But again, Motor DW and Nismax 205, 205, Munna 206. He needs to be able to match those lap times, otherwise that gap will.
The fastest guy at the moment.
And there we go again.
You can actually see all three again. You can actually see all three in the same screenshot. I think that would be encouraging for that. I was just about to say that would be encouraging to Nismax, seeing both of these competitors for this race just in front of him, because now he's really in touch with both of them. As that gap is now under 7 seconds to Munna.
Seeing both of them just down the road from you, when they make a mistake, you can see them make that mistake, and it just
inspires you to push that a bit harder.
If you're in third and you can see first and second just down the road, or if you're in third all by yourself 30 seconds down the road, it's a very different race. And just seeing them down the road, it can make you that much quicker.
And then if they actually make a mistake as well, that just is an added boost.
It's a DW hovering 2.9 seconds, 3.1 seconds, so just hovering around that same mark for the past 2 laps.
Opened up a little bit to Munna, but it's close to Nismax, so maybe a bit of a mistake there by DW.
Could
but
have
Nismax now
coming
definitely
up on
the faster of a 3 again, because that gap to Munna is actually under 6 seconds now, closer to 5.
Could have Nismax coming up on Motor DW before Motor DW gets to the Munna. Or we could have Nismax arriving at DW when Motor DW arrives at the Munna. Could have a 3-way battle in a couple of laps, who knows. Not a big gap, just 5 seconds cover your top 3.
Of course, just still 45 minutes to go.
That's half of your race distance. Half of your race distance, and it seems like the rain has gone away. Still parts of the track with shiny tar and gravel for some reason. So, don't know if slicks are going to be acceptable on certain parts of this track.
But there seems to be a little bit of a few. Oh, and DW goes wide there. That will really actually bring Nismax back onto him.
Nismax now just 1 second. If we were commentating on F1, I'd say this brings him into DRS. Now you're just 1 mistake away from losing your position. Just 0.5 of a second,
just keep
or half a second, whichever you prefer.
We're pretty much at the point where we're going to see these two actually exchanging positions again, like a few laps ago. And it was still
wonder if
nice
this is just going to work in Munna's favour again. Maybe just extend this little cushion that he has if these two begin to engage in battle.
Okay, hang on. I'm actually seeing something that actually makes me think it might actually be starting to rain again. All of a sudden there's a lot more drops on the screen.
I see a lot more drops running across my screen.
Actually, it started to rain again, so we're not going to see slicks. Oh, and again DW goes wide on that same corner, which is actually what gave Nismax the second position earlier. And again, Nismax have a better drive, but not good enough. DW keeps it ahead this time.
So if you've practiced in the dry, the weather just being mean at this point, giving you the idea that you might have a go at the end,
and yet
with all the practice that you did.
What you see now, it looks like we're going to go to rain again.
Speaking of the shiny gravel, there it is. And yep, it's wet.
Oh, and DW goes wide, cuts if you can. Nismax obviously on track, better traction. That's it, that second position. Not a lot of fighting this time, so Nismax can actually close up to the Munna in no time with that. Not being held up that much behind DW. Of course, under 3 seconds to Munna.
Look at that. Fastest lap. Nismax does a 1:57.3 and he's followed immediately. Fastest lap. Munna 1:57.2. So I think now Munna now seeing Nismax is in second place. I think he knows he needs to get the pedal down. No longer has DW in second place.
No more safety
Wonder
barrier.
if DW didn't put too much of an effort into that battle. Didn't want to affect the championship too much. Obviously nothing in
he
it
might
between
not be
these
able to
two.
make each and every race. So last thing you want is to affect and mess up the two championship contenders.
Steal points away from the two contenders. Obviously nothing in it between these two. Can't tell you exactly because I haven't had a look at the log in a while, but I know it's single digits. And Munna had a race earlier on in the season that obviously with power issues, he missed a race and missed out on all of those points, and a few races later Nismax got a disqualification which gave Munna a second bite at the cherry, and obviously a second opportunity
and
to
a lot closer to them.
close everything up.
And as we talk about closer, gap now under 1.5 seconds. And if it was F1, Nismax getting closer and closer to DRS.
9/10 of a second now, that is DRS, so they're within a second track now. I'm not even sure what's happening. Some places it doesn't look too bad, other places...
But the drops on the screen are telling us that it did definitely start to rain again.
At one stage I couldn't really see any drops on my screen, but now there are several. 0.6 of a second, the gap between first and second. We've seen this before in this race. We saw this for about 7 laps in the beginning.
Munna going again on the inside this time. And Munna goes into the... Oh, and he swerves back in front. Nismax just sees him in time and leave him enough space. It's almost like...
Nismax will take the lead.
Munna's going to dive on the inside. If he's getting too much, he's going to go wide. Nismax with a better line. Can he cut on the inside? It's like Munna, it was like a repeat performance of what happened a few laps ago.
The only difference this time was Nismax didn't follow him into the wall.
And it was actually a better move because he kept his car out of that. No damage this time round, and Munna the only one with damage.
Maybe
which
now it
might affect a longer pit stop next time round when he stops.
Wonder if Nismax just premeditated that move.
And this time didn't follow him and just kept on the outside, like I suggested earlier that he might have done, and it could have been different. So yeah, so Munna trying the same, actually causing himself some damage. Nismax keeping clear by staying on the outside line. We're both going head to head now. Oh, a bit of contact there.
Problem now is defending. Munna's defending for all he's worth. He's giving all he can, but that car's not in its best condition.
Nismax was on the outside
again.
Nismax was on the outside line into that in the inside line of that corner. Munna on the outside. Nismax going to go for the later break, hence for a bit of contact when Munna came to close that gap. And then of course ran a bit wide there, so that will give Nismax a bit of a cushion there. Not a lot, but of course a guy not being on your bumper, it feels better. Having the guy on your bumper, feeling that pressure is not nice. And the track now actually looks like it's getting wet as well. A lot more reflections on the track.
About your man in third, he's not that far off, and these guys tripping over each other.
Exactly, that's still an option. And we've seen contact between them just now again a few corners ago. So he's still in a good position if it goes pear-shaped for those two.
While these three remain with a little bit of a gap in between each other, let's have a look at your other human control drivers. We have Devon currently in 4th place. He is 50 seconds, almost a minute, adrift of MotoDW.
Keeping it steady there in 4th.
Just keeping it steady. He'll bring home the points, obviously. And then Chen, he's in 12th. But
actually 10, that's 10th last running car.
Same scenario as the rest of the season. If he finishes the race in 10th place, no AI score points.
Mr. Director, can we perhaps get a bumper shot or so just to have a look at the track from that angle? But this track is definitely getting wetter again. A lot more damp now.
Just have a look here. There we go, that's definitely a lot more raindrops than a few laps ago.
But you can definitely see the drops.
But yeah, I think we'll take the lead. 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 We'll take the le So it's coming back. Will it go
And
back to how it was at the start, or will it just stay
funny enough, you would
mellow?
ask that because that's how it started at daylight, and we're actually approaching daylight again. And as we get closer to daylight, the rain seems to be increasing.
Seems like the weather is just mirror. Maybe at midnight it stopped and started again.
Now daylight is raining again. Nismax now coming
Yeah,
to
we have
lap.
Nismax with an AI. He got really close. That could have gone wrong. Where is Munna? Munna now has that AI between him and the leader.
And the
Not
gap
optimal.
now at the 2-second mark.
Actually, now want to see who is this this particular AI.
We
That
go,
the one?
Gianluca Matteo. And there goes Munna on the inside. He would not want to have Nismax get away from him. That is Munna perhaps coming in. It almost looked like he went all the way to the pit entrance, but no, he's staying out. Both of them.
Both your leaders, they stay out. Not
And
sure what they would be pitting for at this stage.
But that track is
36
slippery.
minutes
a lot
remaining. They've
slippery.
got a set of wets on the car. Track only looks like it's going to get wetter at this stage, so don't think they need a tyre change. I think the only reason to come into the pits now is if there was we've actually got some AI in the pits. I wonder if that's going to trigger anything.
And besides, if it's going to be fuel load, depending on what happened, Munna was the one who stopped a lot shorter the last time round.
I know definitely he had a quick pit stop. We all, well, I thought that that with both of them hitting the pit wall and both of them having damage, Munna, Motor DW would have come out in the lead, and that wasn't the case. He came out in second.
But it can also be that
and
Nismax had more
Munna
damage
jumped all
than
of
Munna, which is why he stopped longer. But
Could
then
have
again, in
started
theory, DW had the least amount of damage, and yet Munna made the first move, so it can be that he's still under fuel. So again, we will have to wait to see what really happened and how that turns out. That Porsche doesn't look that nice like it did in quali.
Looks better from the inside. Definitely some loose pieces. Also, the Audi up front not looking 100%.
But he's
Everyone's
keeping that
got-
gap at the 2-second mark, which
got
is
their
all at
scar
this moment
wounds.
he's worried about.
DW has stayed pretty damage free. Don't see any loose bumpers.
And he's still within 5 seconds from race leader Nismax.
Churn has made up a position. He was in 10th, now up to 9th, but obviously he will be finishing in 5th if he's able to finish. But I don't think this battle between Nismax and Munna is quite over. So
No,
30
as
minutes,
you say,
30,
that gap actually came down.
over 30 minutes remaining on the clock. Entering the final third of the race. The rain slowed down. We had hope of a dry finish. That doesn't seem to be the case.
Nope. And yeah,
Rain
it looks
appeared
like
on our
that
screen, and
that
10 minutes
misty
later
drizzle
you
now
can
even as
clearly
well.
see
A lot harder.
now spray starting to fly off the back of that Audi.
Just like it was at the start.
On that last lap you can see the lap times now coming down. They were in the 207s, they're back to the 211s. So track already losing 4 seconds with the pace in a couple of laps.
Going to be
This match your
interesting.
leader
Last half an hour, yeah.
in a second. DW third. Devon still in fourth.
Keeping it steady.
Still holding on. Another thing Devon does have as an advantage is he hangs around, he shows up, he finishes races, he bags points. So,
and we actually saw that in F1 as well. He manages to bring the car back in points paying positions. And at the end of the day, that's what you want. Consistency, finishing, getting points. Oh, that car almost looked like we had Gav pick back. That looked almost like his car.
I was almost going to say, that looked like Gavin's car. And almost looked like Gavin's car came back from the dead to haunt Munna there, just getting in his way there, slowing down for the pit entry and putting Munna off a little bit. It seems to have gained his momentum back, just 7/10 of a second now. The gap between Nismax and Munna. I wonder if there's a clear, quicker driver in the wet and a clear, quicker driver in the dry, and maybe that it's just getting wetter and Munna's starting to find a bit of a groove again on the circuit.
And yet at the start, when it was pretty much the same type of conditions, it seemed like Nismax was the fastest. Of course, it can be that Munna's also growing in confidence.
Moto DW on his return. If things were to finish now, he'd be sipping the champagne. Then again, we're talking about DW. There'll be no sipping of no champagne. He'll be downing the champagne. Well, I'd down the champagne too.
Because you will be so thirsty after this race, you will down anything that's been given to you.
My father has a bottle of champagne he refuses to open, and he's had it for about 20 years. And it's a bottle of Moet, which was the previous champagne sponsor to Formula 1.
Correct.
And that particular bottle was given to him as a gift, and at the time it had a value of 24,000 Rand.
Oh, crazy.
That's why he refuses to open it. My dad believes if you can throw around champagne, you drink JC LaRue. It's not considered a champagne anymore.
Maybe a bit of a mistake there with Munna, or just some good pace by Nismax, but we at the second mark again. Second and a half. Munna flashing his lights, almost like to say to Nismax, hey, wait for me, don't run away.
Do you think it's ever strategy in terms of maybe I can just put him off a little bit? Or
you mentioned something earlier. Munna on the controller.
If I was driving and defending and people were flicking lights at me, it would put me off.
Yeah, but one thing as well, if you think about it, Munna is on the controller.
Yeah.
And of course, Munna also did GT Sport at the time. Now,
yes.
Talking out of personal experience, depending obviously which button is for his lights, but thinking about the GT Sport controller, if you press L3, that is light. So if his button configuration is pretty much the same, of course, keeping in mind L3 is your left analog stick, and you use your left analog stick to steer. And just by any chance, if you just press your analog stick a little too hard and you just nick L3 in the process, you will be flashing lights. So if you come out of a corner, then I can understand it might be by accident, but coming down the straight, I tend to go with you, just on purposely flashing lights for the guy in front.
Because, I mean, not to be funny, but I would do it too. If it was the only thing I had at my disposal that could possibly just put him off.
I've actually been doing it myself. I would, yes.
He knows you're there, but that's just a reminder of how close you are, and it adds an element of tenseness to the situation.
You tend to make the guy look backwards more and actually losing his focus to the front, and that actually can lead to mistakes. So that actually can work in your favor. And that gap is now even closer down. It's just now 3/10.
That's what I said earlier on in the race when I said that all of this defending and all of this attacking, we see the leaders again, just 0.2 of a second between Nismax and the Munna. This is your championship leaders, first and second on the track as well. And they've been like this in the beginning of the race. They were separated in the pit stops, separated almost by 16 seconds at a time. And look at that. There's a mirror image of the start.
Definitely.
The start, we had the sun going down in these conditions with pretty much these visuals, and now we have the sun coming up in these conditions with these visuals.
That's why you don't see a sun, but in theory the sun is on the rise. So yeah, like you say.
And I promise you, if you watch the start of the race and you left and you're just joining us for the final 25 minutes, I promise you it almost got dry at a stage. Because if you watch the start and the end, you'd swear it's been like this the whole time. Those two battling at the front. Hasn't been the case, they've been separated. Been reunited.
Oh, and this match looks like he's going slightly wide there. But not much.
Look.
No real time lost there. But not this time.
Still going around in third. Right with the Munna on his bumper cam.
Nismax now will say,
view of Nismax.
Nismax would say, I kept my wipers on because I knew the rain was coming back.
Oh yes. Explanation for everything. He already has explanations for everything. You don't have to give him you don't have to give him ideas, recommendations.
Ooh, Munna going deep. Just breaking a little bit late there. Some really tough times here.
Nothing easy about the conditions, and that it's not exactly a 5-lapper. You know, hold your driving together for 5 laps in crazy conditions. This has been an hour and a half, and conditions are like terrible at the start, and they got a bit better, I'd say, in the middle of the race, but that wasn't for long, because then water droplets appeared on our screen, and here we are, right where we started. Except at the beginning of the race, Munna was the one doing the defending. He was leading. Now he's in second place, he's attacking. We saw him hit that pit wall earlier, so I wonder how that damage is affecting him.
From this angle and from the gap, I would say not badly.
Seems like he's able to keep up, and from what I can see, if he can get past and not run wide and have a proper pass, I think he could clear a gap. I think he's maybe a little bit quicker in the rain.
But we said it about Nismax earlier as well. He got in front, created a gap of like 2 seconds. Munna brought it down, and now he's sticking with him, sitting on his bumper. So, and of course, Munna has been in front for a while. We couldn't just pull away from Nismax. So it's always, you know how both of them tires are, what fuel load. It can be that the Munna's car is lighter if we go back to what we said earlier about possible under fueling, which then will make him faster, but it means he will also have to stop longer the next time round.
Yeah, no. If they stop again. If that's the plan. So now, whoever does have...
Whoever's going to have a look on the inside, Nismax defending, just leaving enough of a gap there. Munna stays with him on the inside.
And just see the nose there of Nismax on the outside, a bit of contact. Munna stays behind for now, Nismax holds on to that position, but I wonder how much longer
Munna's
he's going to be able
drive down the straight here. Will he dive on the inside? Nismax staying by, Munna dive on the inside. Good thing he gripped his brakes.
Problem is it's a right left, and if you don't get it right, the man's always going to have the inside into the next corner.
Correct.
He just needs some
But
decent
also,
traction and needs to stay side by side with you.
but also heads off to, just hats off to Munave, keeping his cool, wanting the position. He could have easily break late, and he would have run into this. Luckily, he kept his cool.
We now have no change in the top four. Still top five drivers are your human drivers again. So Chen has made his way back up into 5th place. Devon's still in 4th, having a reasonable race. And then your top 3 have been your top 3 since turn 1, since the start of the race.
Just changing
Gavin was supposed to be
times.
Gavin was supposed to be part of the top 3, and his luck in this championship just things haven't really gone his way.
I believe if he was here tonight, it could have been a 4-way race like what we had with these 3 all night.
He's had races we've seen him simply trip over himself when he's one of the quickest men on the track, and then nights like tonight where he's going to miss out on any potential points. So hasn't had the best luck, but we know he's quick. Also don't know how he would have enjoyed these conditions. He's not an absolute fan of the weather, so we had like 2 rounds in the beginning that were clear, if you remember that.
Correct. And as soon as we changed to more dynamic, we actually saw more rain.
Well, we've had rain in every race since. I think we've had rain in every single race we have set weather to dynamic. We've had rain in some form.
Fort Monza was worse, but this is worse if you look at the duration of the rain time. But if you look at visibility, I still believe Monza was worse because of that mist stint in the morning stint of the race.
Nothing Muna can do right now. DW not making much of an impression on the top 2, so these 2 battling is not really bringing DW into it. I wonder if he's just staying out of it. These 2 battling does indicate that DW should be closer to this, but staying around 5 seconds down the road. If he just wants these 2 to have their own race. Devon's still going, lap 32, 20 minutes remaining.
I think these guys will be wishing this 20 minutes passed. Ooh.
Wishing the 20 minutes will go by as quickly as possible. Obviously averaging in that 2 minutes a lap, so 20 laps remaining, what? Call it 9 laps. So 9 laps to go here.
We will just show our viewers, if you look there at Muna's screen, about the fuel load. I'm not going to say it out loud. I know some of the drivers listen to this, so we don't want to spoil strategies. It's all about drivers, but our viewers can see there.
We'll select Nismax. There we go. You see his fuel load there on the right hand side. And then let's just do Muna.
So there's not much difference there.
And then motor DW. So all within the same sort of range.
Yes.
I don't think they need to worry too much about fuel playing a major part in the final 19 minutes of this race. Worry about keeping the track on, keeping the car on the circuit.
Track on the car.
I was about to say keeping the track on the circuit, and then I realized those 2 words meant the same thing. But Nismax still leads, not by much, 0.4 of a second, 0.3 of a second as I say that, continues to tick down.
It's gonna be, who's gonna, oh, Muna's gonna, no, not there, not this time at least.
Get a good full
he's
screen
gonna go
shot now.
Much better line, got the traction. Gonna fight here this corner, but Nismax will have a better line.
Nismax gonna have the inside now into the next one.
Muna's not gonna give it up. It just gives him enough space there, keeping it clean. Just line him up again.
not the easiest circuit with its directional changes to really build up momentum.
And then get the
Like
pass.
if you're worried about the inside line, you're probably going to get the outside on the next corner. So when you're defending, you just sort of want to stay in the middle. Take up as much of the track as possible.
Because who will absorb the pressure the best? That's ultimately who's going to be the winner here.
I've seen Minna make a mistake twice while in the lead of this race. I'm sure he's made more than that, but I'm mentioning two in particular because they were
wide, yeah.
They were the
But
same mistake.
But going on that, if he can manage to put Nismax under the pressure to make the same type of mistakes, it can come back into his favour.
If Minna does get into the lead, needs to stay away from the pit wall, preferably. Hit it twice, coming across the track, defending from Nismax, and the second time Nismax wasn't there. Second time Nismax just went straight on.
Looks like the rain is easing again. There's definitely a few drops, but it seems like it might be easing a bit.
Means we may finish this race in light rain conditions, or maybe just a shiny circuit. But the chances of us seeing dry.
It's still raining, but it seems like it might be a little bit better, but just a little bit. It's still falling.
Can also be the lighting. Now seems to be daytime, and obviously things look a little bit better.
There's cloud shifting as well. Of course, still no change to your top 5. Still running in that same order.
Nismax leads by 0.2 of a second. Minna right on the bumper. Still not able to get into the lead of this race. Maybe he just wants to stay close enough behind and pluck that lead with a lap or two remaining. Maybe doesn't want to give himself too much time to have to defend from Nismax. Just follow him around the track for the last 6 or 7 laps of the race and figure out where you're going to make your move. Where is his weakness? Where does he tend to make a mistake? But then in the middle of that dialogue, I remember we were speaking about Nismax. And if you're waiting for him to make a mistake, you're probably going to make your own mistake while you wait.
So close now.
Now you can really read the fine details on the back of that Audi.
And we are within the last 15 minutes of this race now.
Not long to go. They go over the line to start lap 35. 14 minutes remain. DW still down in third.
I think there was some sort of mistake because not too long ago it was 7 seconds. All of a sudden it's 10, almost 11 again.
Just dropping off dramatically there a little bit. So maybe having a little bit of a off track. Maybe when you get a little bit lonely on the track every now and then you can just have a little bit of a lapse. Run wide or cut a corner, miss a braking point.
Talk about lonely. This can be Devin here in 4th because he's a bit lonely, especially to the leaders. He's way off. Chen not far behind him, but still it's far enough to give him some space to make it feel very lonely. No real. It's
the exact situation I speak of, and it's the worst time to be doing this, just racing around by yourself, is that last 15 minutes of the race. We don't experience it on Friday night anymore because that race has been shortened. But the 100% races, the last 10-15 minutes, that's if you're not in a battle, that's when you get tired. If you're in a battle, the time flies by.
And you only feel that tiredness after the race, not during the race.
even sitting in the rig, when you sit in the rig for 2 hours and you get up, you're like, oh wow. Obviously when DNB was still doing the 100% F1 distance, that's a 300-kilometer race on average, so we were doing, probably with qualifying, we were doing well over half the distance from Joburg to Durban every Friday night.
That's one way to think of it.
It's a lot of driving if you think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd love to know over the 3 games how many, over the F1 games and all the games, how much mileage have we actually done in virtual cars? I don't think it's more than I've done in an actual car, trust me. That might be. I did 70 laps on Monza today.
Ridiculous.
And I'm 4/10. I'm 4/10 off the time trial time of the man we're riding on board with for tomorrow's race. And there's more time there, I know it. But I know that all that means is sometime between tonight and tomorrow night when I will go back to time trial and horribly embarrass me. Actually, usually he sets a lap time and puts me off time trial. Ooh, getting awfully close again, these two.
Coming back in.
Let's go to trackside camera so we can get a better view of these two.
Space. Going back bumper to bumper.
Still a little bit of contact and this Max just staying in front. 11 minutes remaining on the clock.
Going to be a tough 11 minutes if you look at this gap. Who's going to all the nerves?
Remember when I said earlier on in the race, wouldn't it be amazing if these two found themselves at the end together, and they've done that.
Pretty much.
They were 16 seconds apart on the road at one stage, but they still managed to find themselves in a battle with just a couple of laps remaining. And now when it goes up the inside, will he have enough? Sort of backs out of it, back out of the contact.
Just have a better, thought for better of it.
Just thought the better of it. Now he's going to tuck in behind that Audi, get as much slipstream as he possibly can, and then hopefully
dive
out for the inside.
Going in, but no, not really.
Just saw the car turning for a split second and then just straightening out. See, this is not the time. He's managing his pace, and I think there's a lap car coming up
as well.
In front of Nurse and that's Muller might just be thinking, well, he's gotten past him. But if I was in that position, I would have also just sat back for a little bit and just seen if there was any negative reaction to the AI. Between the AI and Nizmax, and then obviously try and capitalize on it. But they both seem to have gotten through pretty easy, the AI having a handful of a time trying to stay on track himself.
Of course, now under 10 seconds, just
not
almost
giving
just
you
a little
leaders
over
any
9
trouble.
to go.
Not sure if Judge is still with us. Judge, are you still with us? Say something in the comments.
Accept your favorite saying.
Hopefully you've got your power bank, and if your phone's going to go flat. How's Eskom treating you?
Judge, you can do pooner, but not the other hooner.
Yes, please. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't pick it up in the algorithm. I've tried. So, Nuzmax is second, 0.8 of a second. That gap was a lot smaller a lap or two ago. They were 0.2 of a second. Really on each other's bumper. Now just giving him a bit of room again with 8 minutes remaining on the clock. Maybe just giving himself that one last breather
Come,
before he
Judge, don't
goes
pretend like you're deaf, like you can't
goes
hear
for
us.
the final attempt. We've got 4 people watching on the stream, so I'm pretty sure one of those people is the judge. He's just giving us the silent treatment. But
He's probably going to tell us something, so in advance we can just tell him, you know what, Judge, you no work.
That's right. We all know what he's going to say. It's probably a message waiting for us in the group chat with those
Probably.
with that very
most famous 3 words of him.
word. So there
a
we
4-lettered word, but a 3-word sentence.
Yes, that's correct. 0.8 of a second, 0.9 of a second, 1 second. That's the gap at the front. So there is a cushion there now, and there's Max.
Just over
maybe
7
a little
seconds.
bit more comfortable.
Can Muna do something about it? Because with only 7 seconds left, 7 minutes, sorry, you don't want this much to get away from you. You want to stay on it, because that mistake can come in.
I wonder if
fatigue can also set in.
This is also Muna's just way of just been attacking, and Dirk's been doing a fantastic job of defending, and maybe this is just him just giving himself a breather for a lap and a half.
And to come attack again, put him under pressure until the end.
To really just give him that final push, that final attack. But that's not going to help. We saw DW running over that curve a couple of times earlier on in the race. Muna does it the same, running over the apparently silky gravel.
I need to get down to Germany, because that's some awesome stuff, looks like in Dubai.
I tell you that some of the things we see here, I don't know if it's PS4 related or if guys see the same thing over on Xbox One, but we see some pretty amazing stuff. I mean, I've been introduced to silky shiny gravel. I've been introduced to F1 helmets that are incapable of getting wet.
You don't see raindrops on the helmet. The car shows raindrops, but they are not their helmet.
Can be raining, spray coming off the tires. You can hardly see anything. There's droplets on your camera. And the drivers are driving around with these helmets that don't have a drop. They're just... I think if you could make that and sell that to bikers who ride in the outdoors...
You will be a millionaire in like no time.
Those would sell very nicely. Having a look at your leaders, nothing has changed for now, but I did say that gap went up to over a second. Maybe Muna just giving himself a breather. Now we're seeing that gap came down a little bit. Now back to a second.
Closing.
What if he just went for it and then made a bit of an error?
And Gavin is back. Not.
We have Gavin back. Now Nismax.
Nismax will be the first car to go, and we're now under 5 minutes to go. We now have the last 4.5 minutes.
4.5 minutes to go. Obviously,
that
when
literally
that clock
with two
reaches,
that gives us about 3 laps to go.
When that clock reaches 0, we will finish the lap that the drivers are on. So if there's 2 corners to go, they'll do that 2 corners and end the race. If they've just finished the past the start finish line, then you've got another entire lap ahead of you. We've seen guys when they have a extremely large. There's not Gavin. Wonder if that's a PSN. Not Gavin.
Not Gav Peak.
As Max leads the race, still that gap still 1.2 seconds now, so going up slightly. Last time we looked it was 1.1. Now obviously Muna has that Renault in between him and the leader, and we missed that a little bit, but he's going side by side, and he didn't make things too easy, did he? Didn't exactly get off the throttle and let Muna go. So that's increased your gap a little bit from 1.1
So
seconds. We saw it go up to
going a bit wide
1.3,
there.
1.5. So it's cost him. And we spoke about giving Nismax that final charge, that last go. If he's going to do it, he's going to have to do it now. 3 minutes remaining on the clock. 1.5 seconds is the gap. So if he expects to get within striking distance of Nismax, he's going to have to put together a very serious lap in the next lap. At least two laps to go then.
He's going to really make a push because, according to my calculations, this is ultimately the penultimate lap.
I think they'll get over the line now with less than 2 minutes remaining on the clock, which means that will be that. Now Munna running wide, getting gravel on the left hand side, does it a second time.
Maybe pushing a bit too hard now.
Leaving it a bit maybe too late. We saw he did have a go earlier on, and it seems like he made a bit of a mistake because that gap came down to 3/10 and went back to a second. So maybe that was his initial jump when he was going to initiate his final attack, and it's got put off a little bit. That gap at the front now almost 2 seconds for the first time in a long time.
Yep, if you look at the time, 1 minute 44, definitely this is the penultimate lap. So they will come around and we'll do one more lap. So the race will end at the end of the following lap.
In the last lap, Nismax fastest man on circuit, 2:14.2. Munna only managing at 2:15.3.
And also Nismax the best lap of the race, 2:04.7.
On that last lap, the fastest man on the circuit on the last lap was your 5th place man, Chen. The 1:12.8.
2:12.
He's going to be taking home points for 5th place. Devon,
under a minute
points
now.
for 4th.
This is the final lap. Definitely final lap. So when we cross the start finish line, that will be race over. So if Munna's going to have a chance, he's going to have to make it stick. He's going to have to do it now or never.
It's right on board. Seems like now Nismax has gotten too far down the road. He was right on his bumper and he couldn't pass him, and now he's nowhere near his bumper. So
and soon he's going to have another AI to put between him and Munna.
Will this AI cause a dramatic ending to this race? Let's hope not. It's right on board with Nismax as he approaches that car, and you might find that he just doesn't engage with it too much. If it's not holding him up too much, and Munna's not gaining too much ground, he might just stay behind him until he finds a decent place to pass him.
Of course, not in the
See what I mean? At the moment, just looks like he's staying behind him.
Yes. And in
doesn't
fact,
feel the need to engage.
Bit.
And making a mistake there in the background, running wide. Getting a bit of gravel and a whole lot of curb.
Final corner coming up.
Time remaining has hit 0. There's your final corner.
Nismax's going to come around and he's going to take the victory.
Nicely done.
Just flashing the lights. Well done, Nismax.
Munna finishes his race in the same frame. We can see first, we can see second in the same picture. They were together for most of the race, and as the water flashes across your screen,
and I mean,
it's basically what we've been looking at for the past hour and a half.
Like you said several times earlier, of course, after that round of pit stops, Nismax came like 16 seconds behind Munna, who at that stage was first, and DW at second, and he kept on fighting, put it back in first, and must say, once he reclaimed that first position, he actually had a much better stint than previously, of course, hardly any mistakes.
on those two so much we forgot about this man, Motor DW, on his return. Surprise appearance. Actually just announced today that if there's space he'd race.
And a nice podium position.
Comes in third. This man were to sit down and practice for a couple hours, you can see he'd be right back up there. Very competitive race for someone who should be rusty. Let's go see Devon. Devon's in fourth, waiting for him to finish his race. Still 60 minutes remaining there on the clock. Guys still have 60 minutes to get over the line. Otherwise the game will just cut you off. Do you get classified though?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Nothing to worry about there.
Looks like we will have some sort of a fight between these two till we end. Till we end there.
Devon fourth, Chen fifth.
Only a second in it.
The two human drivers that were not part of that top three battle. The only two that survived. We had an exciting lineup for you at the beginning of the race. We had 9 human drivers. We had the likes of Wazzy. We had the likes of Ranger making his debut. We had Gavin in the Renault. Toki, guy who's, like we said, very well seasoned in this game. And it would have been a different result, but we'll never know.
We could have actually had 10, yeah, because we also had D-Man, but because of connectivity, he couldn't make the start.
Okay, your clock has hit 0. Let's just read your results to you. So for round 6 at the Nürburgring GP track, Nismax wins the race. He wins from Munna, from DW in third on his return. Devon takes 4th, Chen takes 5th. And that's all I really need to read, because the rest are
all AI.
And for some reason, was he classified in 11th? I just saw that at the bottom of the screen, and I have no idea why, because it's the first time his name's been on screen the whole race.
But
so that's the end of round 6. Johan, thank you.
And thank you.
I'll let you say your goodbyes. I've enjoyed. My voice is sore. I need to go and drink something. I don't know how my voice is sore, but it's sore.
Okay, your throat is sore, your voice worked too much. But anyway, of course, next race we will be off to the Fiji Speedway, which will be 1 week from now. So till then, stay safe. For those who drive safe. Keep it on track. Consider other drivers, being it on the racetrack or on the road. Stay safe, and then we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining. Have a good one. Cheerio.
Cheers, guys.